They didn't use the door. 9 of the most experienced winter hikers in the Soviet Union cut through the wall of their tent with knives and ran barefoot into minus 30-degree darkness. Not one of them turned back. Here's why that should matter to you specifically. What made them run has a physics answer, but that answer took 62 years and 2 Swiss scientists to find. 1959, Soviet Union. The Cold War at its peak. A country that classified everything, explained nothing, and would eventually seal the files on 9 dead students with a 4-word verdict. Those 9 were mostly in their early 20s, among the most qualified winter hikers in the country. They were led by Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, meticulous.
The kind of person who built his own camping stove from scratch and modified the tent his group would sleep in. There was a 10th member, Yuri Yudin. 5 days into the expedition, Yudin's old joint injury flared up. The cold was making it unbearable. He said goodbye to his friends, turned around, and walked back towards civilization. It was the decision that saved his life. And it was the decision he spent the next 54 years wishing he could undo. The remaining 9 continued. On the evening of February 1st, they reached the slope of a mountain the indigenous Mansi people called Kolat-Syakhl, Dead Mountain. They didn't know that. They made camp on the slope, ate dinner, wrote in their diaries. The last entry was optimistic. Tomorrow, they would reach their goal. Sometime between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., something happened that none of them survived.
When search teams found the tent on February 26th, it was still standing. Everything was still inside. Their boots, their food, their warm jackets. Everything 9 people would need to survive a minus 30-degree night left behind. The tent had been cut open from the inside, not torn, not burst, cut. The entrance was untouched. Then 9 pairs of footprints in the snow, calm, organized, single file, some barefoot, some in socks, 1 boot between 9 people. In the dark, in minus 30-degree temperatures, walking calmly away from everything that would have kept them alive. The first 2 bodies were found under a large cedar tree, almost a mile from the tent, both in their underwear. The branches above were broken as high as 15 feet, as if someone had been climbing frantically. Or signaled to someone, or hide from whatever had come out of that tent with them. Nobody knows which. 3 more were found between the tent and the tree, their bodies oriented toward the camp, as if they had been trying to crawl back. But the last 4 were the ones that broke the case open, found in a ravine, buried under 4 meters of snow. Their injuries were not from the cold. 1 had a fractured skull. 2 had multiple broken ribs and massive internal bleeding. The medical examiner compared the force to a high-speed car crash. And then he wrote something that stopped the entire investigation. There were no external wounds, no bruising on the skin, no cuts, no marks where the force had come from. Whatever had crushed their bones had left no trace on the outside of their bodies. One of the women, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue, her eyes. The ones that looked like a car crash, with no car. The cause of death was an unknown compelling force, which the hikers were unable to overcome. Then they sealed the files, closed the region to hikers for 3 years, and said nothing more. For decades, theories filled the silence. Military testing? The region was used for Soviet weapons experiments during the Cold War. Infrasound. Specific wind patterns creating low-frequency sound waves that cause panic and disorientation without the victim knowing why. KGB involvement. Radiation. Some clothing tested positive for beta radiation. Some people suggested a Yeti. The Soviet government's silence didn't help rule that out. Then, in 2016, a video that 8 million people watched offered the most logical explanation anyone had found. The conclusion? A stove accident. The burns on some of their clothing. The fact they'd used the stove on previous nights. It fit perfectly. Until it didn't. But there was one problem. The stove was found packed away, unused. That night, the group had decided not to use it. The best explanation anyone had, gone. Just like that. And so the question remained, what made them cut through the wall? In 2021, 2 scientists who had never studied this case decided to look at it differently. Johann Gaum was a snow mechanics researcher. Alexander Puzrin was a geotechnical engineer. Neither of them was interested in the mystery. They were interested in the physics.
When the group pitched their tent, they cut a flat platform into the snow slope. Every mountaineer does this. Think of it like pulling a tablecloth from under a stack of plates. They leveled their tent site, and in doing so, they removed the one layer of snow that was holding everything above it in place. All night, katabatic winds kept depositing fresh snow onto the slope above the tent. Picture this. You're lying on a hardwood floor. You've been sleeping for a few hours. And then, silently, in the dark, something the size and weight of a compact car made of compressed ice drops onto you from above. No warning, no sound, just sudden weight. Gaume and Puzrin modeled this using the same simulation technology that Disney used to animate snow in the movie Frozen. A hard slab about 5 meters long, releasing and dropping straight down. Silent, localized, stealthy. And when they modeled what that slab would do to people lying on ski,
the results matched every single injury in the autopsy reports. They cut through the wall because the entrance was blocked. They walked downhill because that was their training. They were calm because experienced mountaineers are trained to be calm. And they died, one by one, because the mountain had already done its worst before they took a single step outside. What happened at Dyatlov Pass was not a mystery. It was physics. Yuri Yudin learned the answer before he died. He lived until 2013, 54 years of carrying the weight of a decision he didn't make. He visited the pass. He identified his friend's belongings with his own hands. He spent decades giving interviews, attending memorials, answering questions about people he had known for 5 days before they died. He spent those 54 years asking the question that the 2021 study finally gave him something close to an answer for.
Why them and not me? The answer, the real answer, is that there was no reason. A patch of snow was weak. The wind was strong that night. The platform they cut happened to be in exactly the wrong place. 9 of the most prepared people you could have assembled. Every decision reasonable. Every step trained. And none of it was enough. There's a kind of comfort in believing that disasters happen to people who made the wrong choices. If they had camped lower, if they had checked the slope angle, if they had used the entrance instead of cutting through the wall. But 3 of them were found facing the tent, still trying to get back, still doing the right thing, even at the end. It just wasn't enough. There are moments in every life when something invisible shifts beneath the thing you thought was solid. Your job, a relationship, a plan you built carefully over years.
And suddenly, you're standing outside in the dark, without your boots, trying to figure out which direction leads somewhere warmer. You didn't make the wrong choices. The ground just moved. In 1977, we sent a signal into the universe and waited 47 years for an answer that never came. In 1959, 9 people walked into the snow, and the silence they left behind lasted 62 years. Both are the same question, asked in different languages. What do you do when something you can't see forces you out of the only shelter you had? The Dyatlov group did what humans do. They moved toward light. They tried to stay together, and 3 of them spent their final minutes crawling back toward the tent. Not because it was smart, but because that's where their friends were. You cut your way out. You move toward light. And you don't stop moving. That's what they did. That's what you do too.
If this changed how you see something, even for a second, subscribe. Because the next video asks a different question. Not what happens when nature forces you out of your shelter. What happens when other people do? In 1971, a psychologist at Stanford gave ordinary college students uniforms and told half of them they were guards. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks. It lasted 6 days. And if you haven't watched our last video, the one about the 72-second signal from space that scientists still can't explain, it's right there. Same question, different universe.